Hey guys, so today I thought I would show you a pretty quick tutorial on what and what not to do when drawing an eye. I thought I'd just add a little disclaimer here because people are very easily offended or take things the wrong way on the internet, so I just thought I'd clear that up. That just because things don't work for me necessarily doesn't mean that you shouldn't do them at all, or that they don't work for everyone. Every person, every artist has their own techniques and their own style and what they like and what they don't like. And just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you shouldn't like it. So these are just my personal tips on what helps me and what gets me to the result that I want and what doesn't. These are just my personal opinions, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, subscribe. I kept this video pretty basic because I just wanted to show you with a basic materials, what you can achieve and what tips work really well for me. If you want a whole video on pencils and what I think is best for shading or for, detail work or not detail work, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll gladly make a whole video in depth about pencils and what pencils I really like to use. So yeah, I look super messy, I know. It's pretty late at night, and I just had an inspiration by watching a video on YouTube, and I was like, I should make a tutorial on what and what not to do. Personally, these are all my personal thoughts and opinions, so if you don't agree with them or you don't think that this stuff works for you, that's totally okay, that's totally fine. I just want to make this video to help some of you out in case you were wondering how to draw a more realistic eye and what I do. So thank you so much for watching. Let's get into it.
Hi guys, so this is the first voiceover we've done, so I'm sorry if it's really awkward and there's lots of ums and is and okay. So the first thing I suggest not to do is to use a very heavy pencil. As you can see, I'm using a B, which is very soft. The lead's gonna leave a very harsh line and a heavy indent in the paper. The second thing I suggest is to look at a reference photo. If you're a beginner, you're gonna really want to see how an actual eye looks like. So when you're watching an eye tutorial on YouTube, I suggest actually looking at a real eye instead of just following what the artist is drawing. The second thing is to do a very light first sketch. As you can see here, I'm doing a very heavy, very pressured lines, which is really going to leave a heavy indent in the paper, which is what we do not want, because in case we mess up, we're going to want to erase those. Another thing which I see a lot in YouTube art tutorials, especially for eyes, is that they do kind of like these very rough, straight strokes, and the human body is really not rough and straight. It has very many curves, and it's very imperfect. Sorry I use so much. So as you can see here, I'm just doing some really straight lines around the eye. I'm kind of just erasing the inner corner. I'm just adding like light shading. I'm not really paying too much attention. Around the eye, I'm just adding just tons of lines, and I'm not really thinking, does this look realistic? I'm just following what a tutorial would tell me. Here's another huge mistake to me is eyelashes. I see a ton of people do eyelashes very straight, very uniform, and all in the same direction. As you can see here, very thick, when eyelashes in real life are very wispy. They're very soft, they're very long, but they do not go in one direction at all. So making your eyelashes like this will definitely make your drawing look quite unrealistic. If you want realistic eyelashes, well, I'll show you how to do them in the next clip, but as you can see here, I'm just really, not taking my time on things, not, bothering to see if things are proportional. I'm just kind of, saying, oh, this is what the tutorial says. So as you can see here, I'm just, making a rough eyebrow, doing some really bad sketch, like shading on the eyeball, and yeah, I just ugh, it's a mess. So those are some of my don'ts. I didn't really have very much time in that part, but here is what I suggest doing. You want to start off with a light sketch. I lost some of my footage, so I didn't have the very first part there. Sorry, I have like an accent for some reason. Okay. Anyway, what am I doing? Okay, I'm doing a very light sketch, and that's what you really, 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 really want to enforce in your art, is always, always, always start with a very light sketch, because if you want to change something, if you want to erase something, you're not going to want this really heavy, dark line to try to get off the paper when you put it in there so hard. So when you start off your first like sketch of what you want to do, you're going to want to do a very light sketch using a very hard lead, like a 2H I suggest, or a 4H. So here I'm using a blendy tool. I do not know what they're called. I'll insert a title here if I remember to. So I suggest using one of these, a tissue, a Q-tip, anything, even your fingers. I use my fingers a lot. You really want to blend. I think blending is one of the most vital, probably the most vital thing. If you want to make a semi-realistic or realistic or hyper-realistic drawing, you're going to want to be blending, because there are so many different values in black and white drawing, and because you don't have that color, you really have to work extra hard to make it look realistic. So what I suggest is adding value like I am here, and then slowly taking a blender and blending it out. Another thing I see with art tutorials is that they make the pupil and like the iris very harsh and very like perfectly round, and the edges of the iris should be very well blended. They should be darker, but they should be blended. If you look at your eye, you don't have this perfect crisp line. So if you're doing your eyes with a very, very crisp iris, like I did in the previous clip, you're gonna notice that it doesn't look as realistic as you want it to. So right here, like I said, you just want to keep adding detail by detail. You're not going to be wanting to get everything on the paper at once, because you need to build up the values. You need to build up the blending. If you just put everything down at once, you're going to tell. And as you see my other drawing, you can definitely tell that I rushed through it. I had 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I watched a tutorial who says, I don't know, that say this is what to do, so I followed step by step. And you really don't want to do that. I mean, you can if you want to, but I suggest looking at an eye, like pictures of eyes, your own eye, any eye you can find on Google, and look at that. Look at the proportions of a real eye. Look at how a real pupil looks. Look at how the shading of the sclera, I think that's how the white part looks. And go from there, and you're going to be constantly wanting to lift up by erasing, so making parts lighter. You're going to want to keep adding little darker parts, and right there I lost footage. I'm so sorry. It was a month between when I filmed this and when I edited this, so I don't know how I lost it. I'm so sorry, but all I did was start adding little strokes in the iris to start adding depth. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I just added little kind of half strokes throughout the pupil, and very random. I did not do it in any particular order. You want everything to be as imperfect as possible. If you start making things look perfect, that's when things will start looking fake and cartoonish and unrealistic. So you're gonna have to realize that to make something realistic, you're really gonna have to work on letting things be imperfect, and realizing that realism is more imperfections than perfections. So right here I'm just blending out everything I'm doing there. I'm using a tissue, and I'm just taking my time adding values where I think. Another huge thing which ruins eyes I see all the time is these really harsh, jagged, perfect straight lines all over the iris. And if you look at a real eye, no eye is like that, honestly. Every eye is different, so when you're shading, your iris, you're going to want to add really random strokes. You're going to want to add little squiggles here, maybe some dots there. Sorry, my hand's blocking that. But as you can see, I'm just kind of adding little squiggles. I'm not adding these perfect lines. I'm just kind of letting my pencil do the work. You know, just letting it glide across the paper and do what it wants to do. I mean, over in the right hand corner, I do some straight lines, but that's just to add some variation. And then you want to go back into whatever blending tool you use and blend, blend, blend. I can't say that enough. You really want to learn to take your time and to blend out things as well as you can, or as well as you think it should be. As you can see here, I just go back in eraser and add more highlights because I thought I added too much shading. So right here, I just lifted up some of those, and I don't know what I'm doing next. Oh, okay, so I'm adding some shading around the pupil because I thought it should be a little bit darker. And as you can see, it's just, you want to take your time drawing when you're doing realistic things. You don't want to rush in, like, expecting to do this in, I don't know, 20 minutes. This eye drawing took me around an hour, but that's only, if you think that's really short for this, that's only because I've been drawing and practicing for a really long time. So, but if I would have tried to do this like 2 years ago, it would have taken me like 7-8 hours. So don't think that you're gonna get something right away. So right here, I'm just adding where I think I want the wrinkles, and I'm smudging it out. As you can see, I'm like going really ham with that. I take my little blendy thing and I go around the edges. I'm just trying to get what I think human skin kind of looks like. I didn't want this absolutely perfectly realistic. I kind of wanted it a little, you know, I don't know how to explain, like semi-realistic, not like hyper-realism, just realistic enough. So I'm going back and forth between erasing and blending and adding more. And that's another huge tip, is to use a sharpened pencil. Super random, but you're gonna want to sharpen your pencils all the time, every other minute, really, because if you want that clean line, if you want that detail, you're gonna want a sharp pencil. Okay, right here I lost some footage, so I'm so sorry, but all I did was add wrinkles, which was from lifting up with the eraser. Back to the eyelashes. As you can see, eyelashes are not perfect. They kind of go in all directions, they're wispy, they're kind of all over the place. So if you're wanting to make a realistic eye, you're gonna really want to practice eyelashes. And as you can see, I'm just kind of making them in all different directions, all over the bottom eyelid, and not making them all go in one direction. For the top, I start making them short strokes to make it look like you're kind of facing the eyelashes, and then once I get to the top, I make them longer, and I just keep adding darkness to the base. And you can't just wing this part. I think this is like the most important part of doing an eye, is the eyelashes, to me. I feel like if you have bad eyelashes, the entire thing just looks fake and kind of cheesy. So really take your time practicing soft strokes, and use a very sharp pencil. That's what also I suggest. I used a very, very sharp pencil, very hard lead, to get that very crisp line. I went in with a little darker pencil in a few places, and I blended out the water line because I wanted it to look a little more soft. Not so hyper focused on that, but I just keep going back and forth, you know, adding where I think there should be more blending or more sharpening, back and forth. Okay, sorry. Oh my gosh, this is so awkward. I'm sorry, I'm in like a dark room right now. So anyway, I'm just adding more details, my last finishing touches. The highlight of the eye is another huge thing. Everything's a huge thing, I know. But highlights are almost never perfect squares or perfect circles or perfect crescents, unless it's a photo of an eye taken in a studio. Normally there's some odd shape of whatever the eye is reflecting. So in this eye, which I just made up, I made it like kind of like a window. I think that's what I was going for. It's been a while since I watched this, but yeah, you just kind of want to make an irregular shape and go from there. I think I go back in there a little while more. So again, I'm adding more things to the pupil, kind of wanting to add little sharp spots so it looks a little more realistic. So I'm adding some sharp lines between the really blended parts to make it look as realistic as I can. Oh, my cat just jumped and it scared me. I also use a side of papers if I really want crisp lines. Totally great, cheap, stop scratching me, tip I suggest for any beginners. Also, you want to really invest in erasers. Erasers are going to be your best friend. As you can see, I'm using like a really bad eraser right here, but you're going to want to get an eraser and a very sharp, like 0003 pencil. This is a pencil I bought at Walmart for like $1. And there you have it. Those are my do's and don'ts. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope this helped you in any way. Once again, art is open to whatever you want to do. There are no rights and wrongs. These are just my tips on how to get the most out of your drawing and the most realistic effect out of your drawing. If you like any of the don'ts that I do, feel free to do them. It's all up to you. You can do whatever you want to do. So it's just my interpretation of what to do to make something look realistic. But art's open to whatever you want to do. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!